I believe that that health is wealth. And the Bible
Mhm.
gives us a plan of action for us to obtain health um and wealth. We just gotta follow the blueprint, man. So I wanted to just kind of go over a couple of things. I've been fasting all
Mhm.
day today because fasting's a great health tool to
Mhm.
help kill parasites and other things out of your system.
Right, right. That's exactly right.
That's why the Most High calls us to fast, so we're able to get all these chemicals and things out of our system, and to refresh our bodies and minds, as well as our spirits as well. What do you think?
Right, exactly. And that's what we, like I said, I think one of the greatest preparations of fasting is, of course, water, proper water consumption to
Mm,
trigger everything off. Because that's the basis of the transporting element of everything, including the blood. And as we keep it going, the good quality water, that's very important.
I think you mentioned 2 weeks ago we talked about the water and the blood and the spirit,
Right,
and how it's all interconnected.
exactly.
And we ought to try to keep certain things, and that's why we have God gave us a list of what we can eat and what we can't eat, because we got to protect the blood. The blood is a source of life, and that's why when you mess with it, with in terms of eating unclean foods, or even I don't want to say too much this week, because last the show we did 2 weeks ago, YouTube took it down and gave me a 2-week ban that I couldn't post on YouTube. So
Hmm.
whenever you talk about anything involving any type of shot, anything like that, they try to ban you and shut you down,
Of course.
because that's the main that's the main passageway that the powers of Satan are using in these last days to try to intermingle the iron with the clay,
Right.
and create not only is the beast system, but turn individuals into beasts, who couldn't be saved, or access the grace of Yahusha.
Oh yes, that's very, very important. And as I said in 1 John 5:8, it's powerful. There are three that bear witness. The Ruha Dagusha was the spirit, the water, okay, which is the Ma, and the blood, which is the Adimma. And they all
Mm,
agree. They're witnesses. They're witnesses. And that's why when we eat or drink, it's imperative that we bless it to change the molecular structure of that food or water. It's very
mm,
important. So, whatever drink it is, whatever food it is, and I'm not talking about alcohol because alcohol is a great enhancer of demons. It's
mm,
like a magnet, and they use it to abide in. That's why your alchemists, they know before they do their invocations, they'll take a good 200 proof alcohol and they'll put it in their mouth and spit it out and start decreeing because it's a
mm,
great invocator of entities. A lot of
mm.
people don't know. If they knew, I think a lot of people wouldn't even touch alcohol. But once again, they don't know. My
Yeah,
people perish because of a lack of knowledge.
yeah.
And of course, when a majority of people are doing things in the world, Christians and these believers say, well, it must be okay because my pastor's doing it and the deacons and everybody's doing it, so it must be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't line if it doesn't line up with the milfa, the will action of the Father, we need to keep away from it. You see,
Right.
because it has to be pretty strong for these big time alchemists. They know what to invoke, how to invoke,
Mm.
and they don't start any invocation without their alcohol. It's usually 200 proof.
Yep.
Put it in the mouth,
Yeah.
spit it, and then start invoking.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a scientist or a highly educated person to know if they're doing it and they're working on the opposite side of us, we need to keep away from it.
We need to do something different. You know what's
We need
funny?
to
I
do something different.
remember, I remember I knew this girl one time, and she was a stripper, and she said that before they went up on stage, she had to get really drunk, or other people, they had to get under the influence of some type of drugs,
Right.
to be able to go perform. um,
Exactly.
and even in the entertainment and the music, these guys are getting real drunk and high, sniffing coke,
Hmm.
doing all these things, and they can't go in and make music, or go on stage without being under the influence of something,
That's fact.
because
That
it
is fact.
inebriates. Um,
Right.
yeah, I
And
remember there was an
go ahead.
NBA player that played for the Phoenix Suns back with Charles Barkley, I think in '93. His
Hmm.
name was Richard Dumas, and he was a pretty good player. And what happened is he had to drink before and get drunk before every game to play, or else he'd have performance anxiety. But
Mm-mm-mm.
what happened is once the NBA found out and he started getting tested, he couldn't drink. He wasn't the same player and fell out the league.
Mm-mm-mm.
So you can see the power. That's why they call it alcohol and spirits.
Right. Exactly. You heard right. 200 proof spirits. 200 proof spirits. 100 proof. That's right. But you got to remember, any subject like that, the enemy doesn't like it because that is his key. That is his key asset. And he knows that if he can keep it in this thing called the church, he got them. You
Hmm.
see, he got them. And the key is, if the pastor does it, the congregation, they follow suit because they said, my pastor
Right.
drinks. You see,
Right.
and they based everything on what the leadership does. You
Mm.
see, and I
Mm.
don't agree with that at all. And one
Mm.
has to seek the Most High for themselves.
Right.
I don't care what it
100%.
is, but I've seen this many times. People are not allowed to go any further than the pastor.
Mm.
Um, the attitude is, I don't need to hear that. My pastor already told me about it. I don't want to, I don't want to go over his authority. So whatever I need to know, he'll give it to me. But the master, that we know him. I know him as Umsandisi Yesiah
Yep.
in the Yososa language. It makes it beyond clear that he does not tolerate any form of ethylene alcohol. People don't know, and they'll hear the word wine and they'll think it's, they don't understand. There's different types. There's non-alcoholic, and of course there's alcoholic wine. The Messiah, he taught the Nazarites, trained them, and let them know, stay away from it. They had to. They couldn't even deal with anything that
Mm.
fermented and formed into ethylene alcohol. See, so the Almighty knew what He was doing,
Yeah.
when He did it. But man is going to do what he want to do, and no matter what. And I'll say it, 100
Mm.
times. It's not really what goes in a man that defiles him; it's what comes out. When
That
you
was
drink,
that. Yeah.
when you drink, what comes out of you makes a fool out of you. Okay, when
Mm.
it's coming out, they say liquor talks. You see, when it's breaking down in the liver, and then it's going through the capillaries, and it makes its way in the left and right cerebral lobe of the brain. It's exiting, and it's what goes out of the man that's going to cause that man or woman to act like a complete fool. You see,
Mm.
and this is why I don't even touch it. You see, I don't cook with it. I don't drink with it. I don't do anything with it because I know better. I'm not
Mm.
running around with a hammer. To each his own. If they want to do, hey, do what you got to do. But as far as it goes with me, I'm not touching it because I know when I study the Exosa, which the language of Umsandisi Yesaya, he spoke the Asosa dialect of the
Mm,
Aramaic, and it's crystal clear that that's why in South Africa there was a place called Nazareth. That's the real
mm,
Nazareth, and it's in South Africa. The Nazareth in this place called Israel is non-existent. Okay,
mm,
the real Nazareth in South Africa, and they were not allowed to touch, okay, any form of ethylene alcohol. They knew better, and the people around them knew. Don't even get it near them because they weren't
mm,
allowed to touch it. And and so I tell people, if you study and you research, you find out that that Nazareth is not in the area we call Israel. It's in South Africa, just like
yeah.
all of the other cities. They relocated them and gave you a European name. But if you go back to
Mm,
the original Exosa, you'll find them fast in sub-Saharan Africa. They're all there. Nothing in this place called the area we call Palestine, which is a Greek name, and which is Canaan. It didn't happen up there in the north. It happened in the opposite. It happened down in the area of Sub-Saharan Africa. That's where everything, the center of the world. They trained people that the center of the world was in this place called Israel. But when
mm,
you study the Exosa, the language of Umsandisi Yesaya, you will find out that you were duped.
yeah.
Okay. Once you
Yeah.
start getting to the original Exosa, which is the language of Tatanazembai, the language of the prophets,
Yeah.
it's so clear that you just have to say, all praise due unto Umsandisi, all
Mm,
praise, because it becomes crystal clear. But he says, if you seek me with all of your heart, he said, you're going to find me. He said, I'm
mm,
going to show you things that you can't find in the divinity school. Okay. You won't be able to find it because they don't even know it. And
mm,
that's why when Umsandisi Yesaya was speaking to his disciples, they said, well, Umsandisi, how come you are not revealing these things to them? And he said, it's for you to
mm,
know the mysteries of the kingdom.
mm,
You. He said, you're chosen. You're just regular people. He said, you're chosen.
yeah.
You are
Yeah.
Bantu. You're Bantu. You're not every Bantu is just not every kind of human.
Mm,
Okay. The Bantu are souls that are ears to the covenant. Souls that are ears to the covenant. Bantu. Real humans. Because a real human is a soul, okay, that is an ear
mm,
to the covenant. Okay. Not everybody's human.
yeah. Mm,
People are not human. Some people they're not clay. They're iron.
mm,
Those iron men, you can read about them in the book of Jude. It
right.
mentions about wandering stars. Their genetic structure is from stars. It's not
Mm,
from, you see, and a
mm,
lot of people don't catch that, and that's why they're mingling now more with human beings like you've never seen before. Every
right.
Tom, Dick, and Harry got a guide. Okay, every Tom, Dick, and Harry got running around with an Iron Man. That's why they got these movies, Transformers, and all
Mm,
these Iron Men running around, and it's the truth. They're
mm,
transforming iron into clay,
mm,
transforming. You see, so when people are doing all these strange things and gaining all this so-called temporary wealth, see, how do they do it? How do they do it? They're intermingling iron with clay,
mhm,
and have taken over their souls and using them like a pimp uses his hoes.
mm, mm,
Okay, that's the way it is. Now, if you want to, I tell people, you want to get pimped. If you want to get pimped, don't accept Umsandisi, Yesai as your personal dwelling savior. because
Mm.
you either gonna be controlled by Umsandisi, Yesiah, or Hasatan.
Yeah.
Either one. And I'm gonna say one last thing, and I'm gonna emphasize this. When we invoke Israel, it's Isis,
Mm-hmm.
Ra, and El. Isis, we know, is an aerial spirit.
Yep.
Ra Amun Ra is the moon, and El is a Babylonian Akkadian demon known as Ha Satan.
Mm.
Okay, and people say, "Well, when?" I said, once you start researching and you get into the Hosa, the Hohosa, which is the language of the Most High.
Yep.
Okay, you will see things that you never saw before. But the
Mm.
enemy's job is to get you and keep you into the Latin, Greek, Slavic,
Yep.
Yiddish. You don't care. Once you start getting into Exosa, which is the language of creation, the enemy got a problem.
Mm.
Here, you see, because he said, I don't care what land you can get into all those Slavic languages. He said, I don't mind that. But now when I found out you into the Exosa, you that's too much heavy, that's too much munitions against me. That's too many
Mm.
munitions against me. And he said, I'm gonna get you out. No, you think you're gonna get me out of it. You can't get me out of it because I'm under contract. I'm under
Mm.
covenant. If I wasn't under covenant, he'd get me out in a second. But he can't get me out because I'm under covenant. Okay.
Mm.
Covenant basically is I am basically an heir. I'm an heir to Amsa DC Messiah and a joint heir to Amsa DC Messiah and an heir to um Tata Nzimba.
Yeah.
Heir.
Yep.
You know what heir is? It's not that you signed a contract, so he said, you got some benefits. Okay.
Mm.
The reason why. That's the difference. That's why I cannot play around with them other languages because those are not earful languages. They're not
Mm.
you won't understand the meaning. You won't get the
Yeah.
true meaning of it. That's why
Yeah.
they went into Africa and they changed all of those original cities and gave them European names so that they would not know the definitions and the true meaning behind them. They changed it all. Change every single one of the sons of Ham. Change the name so you won't get an original understanding of it. That's why they name changed. You
Mm.
see, and that's why we have words of contempt. Contemptuous word. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with a Niger. Niger it means black. But what did the
Yeah.
what did the colonists did? He switched it around and turned it into a word of contempt and said nigger, and got people crazy over that. You see,
Mm-hmm.
just a switch of a word, switch of a meaning, just like the same thing with the word Christian.
Yeah.
The word Mashiach or Christian it's only matter of fact it's mentioned only 3 times in Scripture, just 3 times. Okay, and each time it's mentioned, it's a word of contempt
Yeah.
each time to deceive you.
That's it. No, that's very good. Very good. That's good stuff. I think, people don't understand um the how everything was changed, locations, times, and then words. They purposely changed the meaning and the etymology of these words, so that we would be lost from the truth. I was looking, just looking at the third epistle of John, chapter 1, verse 2. When he says that, beloved, I wish above all
Well,
things that thou mayest prosper and be
prosper.
in health. All right. And very next thing he said, so I rejoiced greatly when the brethren came and testified of the truth that is in thee, even as
Mm,
thou walkest in the truth. So in order to have health, to have wealth, the prerequisites, you got to walk in the truth.
you hit it. You hit it on the nail. You hit it right on the. You jammed it. You jammed that. That's right on the nail.
You got to
It's right
walk in
there.
the truth.
That's it. Right there. That's health. That's good health. Good wealth. Good prosperity. Deuteronomy 8:18. For it is Tata Nazembai, okay, that giveth thee the Kawakahai. That's not power, force. to
Mm.
become wealthy. Deuteronomy 8:18, for it is who? Tatanazembai, not God, Tatanazembai, who giveth thee the Kawakahai. That's not
Mm.
power, it's force. Force and power, two different meanings. Kawakahai.
Mm.
Okay. To give, he giveth the force to become wealthy. Okay. He said wealthy.
Mm.
And wealth deals with wealth, health, and stealth. Wealth, health, and they go together. Wealth, health, and stealth. Give you
Mm.
knowledge to know when to sit down and when to stand up, when to invite, who not to invite, what to eat, what not to eat, what to think, what not to think, how to
Mm.
fight, how to resist. See, it's all part of health. If I didn't know how to resist, then that's not good health.
Mm.
Okay, he does to resist not only food, but resist the enemy thoughts. We have to put these thoughts that we get into subjection, but we have to acknowledge that they're there and not act
Mm.
like they're not there. You see?
Yeah.
And you're not going to a phase of denial. That's good health. When you deny, that's bad health. When you
Mm.
accept, deal with the situation as it is. If I got a problem and I deny it, that's not helping me. That's bad health. Because I'm
Right.
denying something that's real. See? So if I got a heart, if I got a problem with anger and I act like it's everybody else but myself, that's not good health. That's
Mm.
bad health because I'm lying to myself. And in order for me to get good health, I have to acknowledge it and then I have to extract it through the power of decrees. Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto me, and all the light shall be upon thy ways. When I got out of the Marine Corps, back during the Vietnam era, when I got out, I was you couldn't look at me the wrong way. Okay, it was a shame. It was a shame.
Mm.
I was running through the man, I stood on some parking lot with a sword. Okay, I was just
Mm.
I laughed out, but it ain't funny. But the point I'm saying is
Yeah.
if I didn't deal with it, I'd have been behind bars, okay,
Mm.
for a very long time. That's bad health,
Yeah.
okay?
No, hundred
That's bad
percent.
health.
Hundred
You see?
percent.
Now I act like it didn't happen. That's not me. No, I had a problem. I acknowledged it. I had to work with it. I had to learn how to extract it, or else it would have
Mm.
took my life or someone else's life, and I would have ended up behind these
Mm.
things called bars. Okay, that's the reality of it. Don't act like it didn't exist. I had it. I had a problem.
Mm.
you know, Someone cut me off and throw the finger, whatever, and I just come back out of active duty, and I was running on reflex. I was running on stimuli. You see,
Mm.
bad health. I had to reprogram myself into not society, but into the Ruha Dagusha. Okay,
Mm.
discipline myself to back into the Ruha Dagusha. You see? So once again, that's good health because I acknowledged that I had a problem. My mother acknowledged it. Something happened, man. She let me know. Hey, look, you got to work on that. You got to go for it. Don't act like it don't even happen. Work on it. You see? And that's good health. Many
Yeah.
times we think health got to only dealing with food, but it's spiritual food that's just as important.
Yeah.
So if I'm putting a lot of foolishness in my head, that's bad food, spiritual food. It's matter of fact, it's worse than even natural food. You see, so once again, he taught me to die to self, die to anger, die to fear, because these things, the enemy's using these things not to hurt me. The enemy does not want to hurt me. He wants to destroy me. You
Mm.
see, once
Yeah.
you understand he's not out to hurt you, he's out to destroy you, and then you take things under a different perspective because he ain't playing with us. But people
Yeah.
think he's out to play with you, but he ain't out to play with you. He wants our crown, and he would use anybody he can to do it. He don't care who they are, especially these women. He used them and use any other person he can to destroy you.
Mm.
And he knows if he finds out that you're not under the blood and you're under divine protection, then he works on it. Any open area that he sees that's not under the blood, he will work on you until he gets it. So that
Mm.
means that we have to be under First John 5:8. We have to have that fork, that spiritual fork of protection, the witness protection plan. I'm
Yeah.
under witness protection. You see, that's
Yeah.
the reason why they didn't get me, because I'm under witness protection. You see, if I was under witness protection, he would have got me a long, he would have got me a long time ago, because he
Yes,
knows my
sir.
name. But I'm under witness protection, so he's all messed up. If he tried to
Mhm.
get me, the three witnesses say, "Look, stand back. He belongs to us." If I wasn't under witness protection package, I would have been had years ago when I
Mhm.
first got out of the Marine. I would have been had. But the enemy say,
Mhm.
don't, you can't mess with him because he's under witness protection program, so we can't get to him. But
Yeah.
once you get out of the witness protection program, he's got you. He's
Open
got you,
free
baby.
game. Free game.
Open. He's got you.
Well, I think many people deal with mental and spiritual health issues because, they're not being truthful to themselves, about themselves. And, you got, like you said, you got to be able to, um, look in the mirror, take a stock of your life, and you need to renew your mind, which, you need to change your mind in your ways from the false ways of the world to Yah's truth. We got to go from a world mindset to a kingdom mindset. And
Right.
when we do that, many of the mental issues, folks got, you talk about, anger, dealing with anger. Actually, I struggled with anger in my past. I actually just did a podcast on Monday. I gotta break it down and publish some of the clips tonight about anger. It was a men's podcast, black men's
Hmm.
podcast about anger. And I said a lot of times the root of anger is anxiety
True.
and lack of faith.
That's
And,
true
and
too.
and what I said was is that, when I look back at things and people I was dealing with and folks that made me mad or mistreated me, did me wrong, took from me, and I was mad at them and mad about it, and at times acted out in anger. But in retrospect, when I look back at everything, I see that God was just using those people to either teach me something or move me in a certain direction.
I
So
hear you.
when you understand that even the things that was done to you that was hurtful, was meant for your good,
True.
you ain't got nothing to be mad about anymore.
True. That's very
um
true. Very true.
yeah, you can't be
That,
mad because it says
that,
all things work together for the good. So when
that's
when
that's
somebody did something bad, I should, at that point, I should have been congratulating them, I should have been thanking them, I should have thrown them a party. I man, when I think about my daughter's mother, and you knew me, we were in communication, man. That it's been, me and her been broken up almost 10 years. So that,
mm.
we've been knowing each other for about 15 years, Wayne. I don't know if you realize that now.
That's right. That's right.
It's been almost close to 15 years. But
Mm.
you know recently I had to send some money from my daughter, and she still gives me, my daughter's mother still gives me a lot of problems. I won't get into that, but I said to her, I said, you may be still angry and upset, but I said, I'm not mad or upset with you at all, because in retrospect, I'm very thankful um for the relationship. I'm very thankful for the relationship being toxic. I'm very thankful for the things that you did to hurt me, because had she not done those things, I wouldn't be who I am and where I am now.
Mm.
And it's clear as day what God was doing through her. And she
Mm.
still made me mad, but I said, I'm not mad, I'm thankful.
Ah,
I am very, very, very thankful for the role that she played in my life. What in fact, I don't know what direction I would have went in had she not done those things to hurt me. It was
mm.
it was a life changing moment for me, by far. So when you adopt that deep wisdom and understanding, that takes away a lot of the anger and
True.
anxiety.
Very true. Very true. Mm. That's it. You hit it right on the nail. That's exactly right. In all things,
All
give thanks.
things,
There's no
all
accident.
things.
I don't believe no accidents, right? Just for development, strength,
Yes, yes. So
testing.
you can't get mad at people when you understand what God's doing. That will
Very
take away depression and anger and anxiety, bitterness, wrath. Just having the
true.
proper the proper understanding and mindset. And a lot of people get a lot of health issues, not just, they talk about the connection between mental health and physical health. A lot of
Mhm.
people get themselves all sick. And it's crazy. I remember at one time dealing with a lot of anxiety, because I was still very mad at things. So they put me on some medication, right?
Mhm.
And the medication helped the anxiety to go down. But
Mhm.
then months later, I went back and they tested my blood, and I had high blood pressure. And I said, well, I said, how do I have high blood pressure? I'm an athlete. I work out. Well, it was
Right,
because of the medication.
right,
So
right,
because I was trying to deal with a spiritual issue, um, with pharmaceutical,
right.
and it started to have physical health issues.
Mm.
But if you just give it to the Most High, He
Mm.
can heal you and without the side effects of the medication.
My goodness, my goodness.
Uh,
Mm.
and to take that to a step further, we have this we have holistic medicine and cures for everything holistically.
True.
And it says, but we have to, it says in Proverbs 3:7-8, it says we gotta not be wise in our own eyes, but to fear the Lord, depart from evil, and it'll be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones. We
Mm.
gotta understand that the medical establishment of today is not of God. I mean, their symbol is two snakes up on a pole.
Right.
Like
Those are bad.
they tell
Yeah.
you straight up what it is,
Mm.
but we
Mm.
still go for it. But things like the thieves oil, that will help you beat. I don't want to say too much. But it'll help you beat the different type of uh
Right.
flus and plagues,
Mhm.
that help to protect the body from the onset of flu and candida and colds and sinusitis and bronchitis for pneumonia and coughs and strep, sore
Right.
throats, gum disease, teeth and core cold sores, canker sores, bruises,
Right.
cuts, infections, slivers, splinters. It was considered anti-plague and used by thieves in England to protect them from the plague when they were stealing from the sick and the dying. See,
Mm.
a lot of the wicked have more. Sometimes the wicked have more wisdom than the people of God because we choose not to step into the truth. And
True.
all this stuff is biblical. All right.
Right.
And we can find, it includes things like coconut oil and sesamum and sesame seed oil and
Right.
grape seed oil and sweet almond and vulgar and germ oil and all these things organically grown.
Right.
So if we can keep away from these petroleum based uh medications and go back and use the things that the Most High has given us to stay healthy. To the clove bud, antiviral, immune stimulant, lemon, antiseptic, the cinnamon,
Right.
oxygenator and purifier, um, antibacterial, antidepressant,
Mm.
antifungal, anti-infectious, anti-parasitic. All right, you got eucalyptus. All right, is a powerful herb in dealing with virus of the respiratory system. Rosemary, antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. So before you go and you going to get this shot and that shot, and you're going to get this pill and that pill, within nature, we've been provided with all
Mm.
that we need. But we got to have knowledge of our truth. Like you say, our people die for lack of knowledge because they believing in the medical and stuff. They believing in the people that
Pharmaceutical, yeah.
have, you know, two serpents as their symbol.
Mm-mm-mm. That's it. Bishna Hawaya is, Bishna, not Gusha Hawaya. Bishna, error, to feed
Yeah.
the two types of serpent. There's good wisdom and there's bad wisdom. Now, when the enemy put that caduceus up there, they ain't talking about Gusha Hawaya,
Mm,
which is
mm,
divine wisdom. No, 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 no. He's talking about the devilish, the pharmaceutical. That's what
yeah.
he's talking about. You see, two different types of snakes. You see, two different types of wisdoms, because the snake is the representative of wisdom, which is Hawaya. You see, so it's either going to be a snake of error, Bishna,
Mm,
or a snake of truth, Hawaya, a snake of truth, Gursha.
mm-hmm,
See, so when Moses slapped up, his bronze, he was talking about the Gursha,
mm,
Hawaya, the
mm,
wisdom, which is the Messiah. He was talking about
mm,
Umsindisi, um, Yesiah. See, that it was a language. What he was doing, he was putting up a language. He was putting up pictographs on the pole, and the people knew this. He was
mm,
putting up a language, but the colonizers, they didn't know that, so they started making up all these things. They
mm,
didn't know language, but those
mm.
Africans knew when he put that pole. They knew what he was doing.
Right.
Okay, they knew he was putting up a covenant. Okay, they knew that. When he put the serpent and he put the poles together, they knew that the last African Bantu pentagraph was covenant, cross,
Mm,
poles. That's the last black African Bantu pictograph. People say, "Oh no, a cross, that's a death thought." They don't even know it's a language.
hmm.
It's a language. It's the last African black language in the pictograph staff is the cross poles.
Yep.
And they going around when you wear it, oh, I'm not wearing no cross because you don't know no better. You perish because you don't know no better. That's a
Right.
covenant.
Yeah.
The X also is a covenant in the paleo. The X
Yeah.
is talking about covenant, covenant. You see? So people don't, they see an X or they see a cross, they start going into the mythology, Greek myth. No, 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 no. I know African Bantu, and I know the last pictograph is a black calcified Todd base cross. It means a covenant to
Mm,
a deal. TAU, tall. Okay, that's as black as I can get because I'm speaking out of black.
mm,
Okay,
mm.
I'm talking like a black bullied African. Okay, and I bully the enemy because when you start talking, you get into the Bantu, you become a bully. You bully the enemy.
Mm,
He
mm,
don't want to get bullied. You start talking that black womb talk, you causing bullying. You're a bully. Enemy
yeah.
can't stand the demons can't stand you telling people that that's a language that Moses
Mm,
did when he put that brazen serpent. He was talking that was a language. The brazen serpent. That was Hawaii.
mm.
Okay,
Yep.
that was Gursha Hawaii. That was a language.
Yeah.
Those Africans knew the language, but the colonists, they lied and they made it seem like it was something else. These colonists lied to us so bad. I tell people,
Mm,
in order to understand it, you got to go back to the Asusa,
mm.
the language of the Messiah.
Yes.
Okay, the enemy don't care if you study Greek. He don't care if you study Latin,
Nope.
Yiddish. He don't
Nope.
care. Once you start talking that Black African um Ahusa, okay, he don't want you to talk that kind of Zusa talk.
Oh
He don't
no.
want you to talk that way. He don't want you
No.
to know nothing about that language. That's the
Mm,
language of Umsandisi. People talking about Greek. That's not. How in the world could it be Greek when it was everything was translated from the Azusa?
mm,
Everything. But the enemy lied and said it was the Greek and Latin and modern Hebrew, which is only 200 years old. How in the world could you have faith in the language that's 200 years old?
right.
Something's wrong.
Right.
But we've been under a spell. The enemy put these Christians under a spell. And the only
Mm,
way it can be broken is through Amsandisi Yesaya. It's the only way it can be broken. You got to go back to basics.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I was under spot. I was into religion. I didn't know no better. I was into religion. I was
Mm,
delivered from religion. You see, and into truth, which is I'm Sandisi Asai, the only one that can give you the truth. Only one that can do it. You see,
mm,
so I tell people when you talk in health, don't leave out your sosa. Don't leave out the healthy language because he said, I will. He said, I will send my what? My milfa, my Zusa to heal you. He didn't say Greek. Greek ain't gonna heal you. Latin
right.
ain't gonna heal you. Yiddish
Right.
ain't gonna heal you. People say, wait, it's all the same thing. No, it's not all the same thing. Don't tell me it's
Mm,
the same thing. But they'll get people to believe that's all the same thing. Oh,
right.
exusa. When you get into exusa, which is the language of the Messiah, you will see for yourself the definitions. Okay, the semantics is totally different
Mm,
than the Greek, Latin, High German, Yiddish. It's different. But the enemy will tell you it's all the same thing. And he got over 2,000 translations, and he's going to try to make people think it's all the same thing. How
mm,
Satan is a liar. It's not true. If it's not Asusa, which is the language of Amsandisi Asaya, okay, you you're being duped, but you won't humble yourself. See, I was duped, but I
mm,
humbled myself and realized I was duped. I was Greek, Latin, Germanically duped. Okay,
mm.
I was bamboozled, hoodwinked, cable toed, bum rushed. I had to humble myself and tell the truth. No, I don't
Mm,
want to tell people I was bum rushed. I don't want to tell people that I was cable toed. Anytime you went to those Masonic languages, into the Masonic order, that's why they have the term cable toed and
mm,
hoodwinked. Why? Because that's what they do to you. The English
mm.
language is a hoodwink language. Okay, it's a spelling language. It's a spell.
Yeah.
So that's why when you speak, he has when he touches you, he'll bring you into a new language, a new tongue, a new
Right.
language. This is true. People don't believe
Mm,
it. Shame on it. But I
mm,
know I speak that new tongue. When I lie down and
mm,
go to sleep, he brings me into 3D, three dimension. He takes me places. Someone say you lost your mind now. No, he doesn't. Because he did a Job 33, verse 15 to 33. It said that Tatanazambai speaks to man and woman while they're in the dream state. That's how he communicates with you. He
mm,
communicates with when the fighter, okay, the big fighter, okay, known as Yakuo or Jacob. We call him Jacob, okay, but it's Hakuba, that's Jacob, okay. When
mm,
he fought and he banged it out with an angel, he was in a dream state, a subconscious state. How in the world could Jacob fight with an etherical angel? That is preposterous. How could a physical man bang it out with an etherical angel who is known to wipe cities out?
mm,
These can wipe cities out, and you're going to tell me he got in the ring? That is colonistic. Only the colonizers can come up with that nonsense.
mm,
Say, Wayne, the colonizers, the Tetanazimba will not allow the colonizers to take anything out of the sacred book. Read Jeremiah 8:8. It said, they wrote them wrong. The lying pen of the
mm.
scribe.
Yeah. Yep.
They changed it. Don't tell me they don't change it. The scripture said they change it. Wayne, you're wrong. I believe in biblical inerrancy. There's no error in the scriptures. Satan is a liar. There's too many of them because the enemy rearranged the whole. They threw away the key of knowledge. Luke
Mm-hmm.
11:52. Threw it away. Threw away the 22 black African Bantu pictographs. Threw them away and replaced them with Greek, Latin, modern Hebrew, and Yiddish. Don't tell me they didn't change it. That's
Yeah.
warfare. That's good warfare. The enemy knows if in order to produce, in order to produce individuals that are unknowledgeable, He has to take away the original tongue so that they get an erroneous interpretation. And that's just what she did. That's what her Satan did. Theologians don't want to accept it. Oh, no, Wayne. I believe in biblical inerrancy. There's no errors in scripture. Read Jeremiah 8:8. It'll tell you that there are. And he made them rewrite all the, they had to go write the scrolls, wrote them up, had them rewrite the whole thing because the enemy got in to these scribes, wrote them wrong.
Mm.
Okay? Anywhere you see in the scripture and in making people believe that you can do anything and do your thing without the most high, without 1 John 5:8, you've been deceived. They say no. Matter of fact, let me read some. Let me just read this one. Please let me.
Mm.
I'm just gonna read this. This is
All day.
the definition. This is the definition of God. Okay. Um, this is the definition of God, and it goes like this. Our word God is from a Teutonic word applied to superhuman beings in heathen mythologies with
Mm.
human attributes who exercise power over nature and man. That's the 1957 Britannica
Mm.
Library. Okay, my mother used to give us always make kept us up to date with the Britannica
Yeah.
library. So she had the Britannicas, all the whole series, and used to keep up with them. They don't even everything's changed.
Yeah.
If
They
you
don't
go
have
on
those
these
no
old
more.
Britannicas, you're gonna find a lot of stuff that they changed now and put it on the computer. They're not even there. You
Yeah.
can't even get a good definition of God
Mm-mm-mm.
because they're making you think. See, you have to understand the enemy is not stupid. He if you take God and you reverse it, you got dog. Okay?
Mm.
The Teutonic tribe members, they lived in caves and they all had German shepherds in their caves. That's a fact.
Mm.
Their dogs were the Teutonic tribe's best friend. So they brought it in. They brought in their
Mm.
dog and they worshiped their dog. That's why say God, you did really telling you dog. Our dogs kept us alive. They fed for us, they hunted
Mm.
for us, they protected us.
That's
The
crazy.
Teutonic tribes, the Germanic tribes, they didn't have German they didn't have German belchers. They had German shepherds,
Mm.
dogs, trained to rip you up. They love the dogs. They'll have a dog in their house quicker than they have an African in there. Okay, they'll lick them over. But if an African try to lick them, they'll kill them. They don't care. Pooch, that Pootsy German Shepherd can lick them, do anything they want. Come here, Pooch. Come here, Moosey. Come here, Pootsy. They love that. You let a
Mm-hmm.
African go in there, they'll kill them. But they'll let a
Mm-hmm.
dog in their house in a minute. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So don't come telling me that I got to worship some God and I know the derivation of God. Send that to let someone else believe that foolishness.
Mm.
Okay? I'm man
Mm.
enough that I took off silly clothes, like Saul said when I was a child. He had on different type of suit, different kind of clothes. He said he took them off and replaced them and he had to put on manly suits, manly
Mm.
clothes.
Yep.
I'm not gonna fall into that category of the worship of dog worship and God worship. That's
Mm-hmm.
Teutonic, that's Germanic. That's why Yiddish is a high German. The
Mm.
modern Hebrew is most of it is High German, and
Mm.
you think it's the
Wow.
original Hasosa. It actually Hosa Exosa. Okay, that's the original, and they're telling me and they tell you that it's okay. Yiddish is acceptable. How could Yiddish High German be acceptable when those people worship dogs? That's why you got
Mm-mm-mm.
they were. That's why you got
Mm-mm.
God. Nowhere in
Mm.
scripture is the God. The Germans brought it in the 5th century, southeast England, while they was kicking their behind. They were killing them English people with dogs and spears and clubs. But most of the German shepherds did the killing. That's a fact. They went in there in southeast England from Germany. They went in there and they kicked behind, and the dogs, the German shepherds, that's their guards led the way. Okay, their guard,
Mm-hmm.
which is their dogs. They ate with them, they drunk with them, they screwed, they did everything with them. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they helped win their war. They helped win that Teutonic British War.
Mm.
Dogs, spears, clubs,
Yeah.
Teutonic tribe members. These are dog on warriors. I said dog on. That dogs led it. So they give the credit to the dog. He said, look at we
Mm-mm-mm.
love you so much. We're gonna worship, we'll spin it around and call it God. Okay.
Mm-mm-mm.
Don't let no one trick you. Man,
Yeah.
I love God. No, I've been delivered from God or dogs. Okay. I'm telling you, I was delivered from it. I'm not a punk. Standing,
Mm.
oh, my pastor, he don't like, I don't care about what the pastor thinks or the national dish. I do not care. I have to stand before Tata Nzimba and give an account, not a man or a dog or a God. May I rest my case?
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Um, yeah, I think, again, we have to understand and renew our mind from all the lies. And we gotta understand, we gotta come to y'all's truth so that we know how to operate, man. There's so many people who think they're down with God but don't know his truth. I shouldn't say God, down with the most high and don't know his truth. And then if you don't know his truth, you don't know the right path. You don't know how to make the right movement. But the most high said, he said that if you follow my ways, all right, that he'll be able to protect you from all the
Right.
things that are coming upon this world system,
Right.
including, but we have to be obedient. The protection comes through obedience, and
Exactly.
knowledge of the truth.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. And that's why, you hit it right in the nail. Once again, the question and the issue of the age is what is the closest original language? But they will keep you out of the black womb, which is Africa, the center
mm,
of the world, sub-Saharan area. That's the Garden of Eden. That's
mm,
the town of right, the people, Bentu. These are the souls, heirs of the covenant. Ba unto, ba so, un unknown, meaning heirs, unto ta, which is covenant. There's not any old kind of people. He said, those
right,
people which are called by my name, those are the Bantu. They're
right,
called by his name. See, they worship the Tata Nzimba. That's the
mm,
reason why it's a word of contempt. That's why one of the words of contempt coming from Nzimba is zombie. That's why who brought that in? Once again, the Belgians brought that in. King Leopold.
mm,
He killed more Africans than Adolf Hitler. Okay, Adolf Hitler killed maybe 500 million. He killed 800 million.
mm,
Okay, Africans. No one's talking about him. You
mm,
see, only because these people. He told them, if you start talking about Tata Zimba, I'm gonna cut your hands off and I'll cut your fingers, hands off, and that's what he did.
mm,
He
mm,
killed them because and he started this word zombie from Tatanism. He started the word King Kong from Kai Kongo, which is the
mm,
god of Eden. That's he started that. So he took good words and took them and brought them into words of contempt. He started the we know it's Niger, meaning black. He said
mm,
nigger, word of contempt. Good word, switched it. Okay.
mm,
Zombie, from Tatanazamba, the name of the Almighty. What did he do?
mm.
Reverse it.
Yep.
Okay. Instead of Tatanazamba, that's where we get the word zombie to make it sound bad. The zombies are coming. Well, the zombies are coming and they're good.
Mm,
Okay. So he switched everything. Nigger, zombie, um, he switched many words he could switch. King, he knew the Congos, Kai Congo was he knew that there was the God, home of the righteous, the
mm,
God. He knew that, so they came up and passed it on. and those people put together, anytime they want to make fun of them, they say they're a bunch of King Kongs. He was talking about the Africans.
Mm,
And then
mm,
in the 30s, they came up with the movie King Kong. It was supposed to be King Congo. And they made it eight, was supposed to be a ridicule of the Congolese people. Okay, that's where you get the word King Congo. It's called words of contempt. Niger is a beautiful word, black, but they said no. We're going to change that Niger and we put nigger on it.
mm,
Okay, that's why you got nigger. And
mm,
another
mm,
thing a lot
mm,
of people don't understand is picnic.
mm.
Picnic, and you can Google this if you think I'm making it up. Picnic came from let's pick a nigger. Okay, they go out
Yep,
there and they would have a they would go pick a nigger, kill him, and then have a barbecue. Okay, a picnic. That's where you get the word picnic. They
yep.
eat and then I mean they literally cut them up.
Mm,
You can
mm,
Google it. This is what they did. They
mm,
took
mm,
all types of body parts as souvenirs. They picked them apart. That's why to this day I will not go to a picnic knowing the origin of it. People's when you want to go to picnic, I ain't going to your picnic. Picnic is from pick a nigga.
mm, mm, mm,
Okay, that's where you get it. Pick a nigga. There's not no picnic. And these your melanated people, they all if they knew the origin, and a lot of them knew it, they don't care. They still want to go to a picnic. I won't go because I know the origin of it. I'm not going to nowhere where they lynched and then picked apart these melanated people. Okay, stripped their bodies, took penises, arms, elbows. They just took them. This is fact. You can even Google it. It's real. You see, people don't want to talk about it. No, Wayne, I don't know about that. It's fact. Research it for yourself and keep
mm.
your niggas to yourself because I ain't going to no picnic.
Man, I've heard that. I definitely heard that before. It's we got to understand and study the etymology of words. There's a lot of brothers that supposed to be in the truth, and they be like, man, we don't need anything other than the Bible. We don't want to read no other books. We don't want to have no
Mm-mm.
other knowledge. And then them same brothers are always kind of trying to ask questions and missing out on stuff that's easy to get if you go and get the full knowledge. But when you, it's almost like it's almost a pride thing that they're trying to be self-righteous and oh we and like you said it in the Bible. The brother got after me. I said, the Bible has been tampered with. He was like,
Of course.
either he's like, if that's the case, then either I believe it all or I don't believe nothing at all. And it's just it's sad when brothers cut themselves off from knowledge and truth because of that, because the truth can be found in many ways.
Anyway,
And it all matches up, and it answers questions and fills holes that the Bible may leave you with. And it's sad because again, our people, they die for lack of knowledge,
right?
um and pride,
That's what it
and
is. Right.
I see brothers broke down and struggling all the time, but I believe that the most high means us to live in abundance and prosperity, all
That's
right,
Bible.
of
That's it.
health and wealth. The
That's it.
blessings of Yah will make you rich. I mean, I think of all the money I've blown by making bad decisions, by dealing with the wrong women, or giving resources trying to help people
Mm.
who he didn't intend to help.
Mm, mm, mm.
So when I think about it, I mean, there was plenty of money that folks took from me, but there's plenty of money that I blew. And even the times where
Mhm.
people took from me, um, it was my fault because I got yoked with folks who I wasn't be yoked with. So if we were to
Right. I hear
truly
you.
follow all y'all's commands, I know I'd have probably close to $1 million more than what I have.
Right. Right. I hear
So
you.
it's health and wealth all goes back to obedience of the Most
True.
High, and standing in truth. And looking and in Deuteronomy, I'm looking at chapter 8, verse 15. And he talks about, you know, is that we got to understand um where the power and strength comes from. It's not from us. It's not in our own wisdom and power, but in his way. And so you gotta a lot of folks, they said I'm not humble. Well, I'm not humble before man, I'm humble before the most high. I'm not
That's it.
supposed to
That's
humble
it.
myself before someone that breathes and the same air as me and bleeds the same blood, but I'm humble to
Exactly.
the most high. And that's
Exactly.
what you have to humble yourself before, because you know all things come through his power.
That's it.
um and you know that humbleness and that fear of Yah is the beginning of all knowledge, and it's that
That's
knowledge
it.
that will keep you from
That's it.
perishing. It's that
That's
knowledge
it.
that will keep you from perishing.
That's it. That is it. Right on the nail. That's it. That goes together. Good health, good wealth, good prosperity, and good peace. Because
Peace. Yep.
that's they go together. It's not one. Good health, good wealth, good prosperity, and good health. So when you can't separate, they go together. It's a package. It's a tall
Package.
package, a covenant package. You don't want to get a quarter of a package. You want the whole package,
You want the
the
whole
whole deal.
package.
That's it. And so you can't leave out health. You can't leave out wealth. You can't leave out prosperity because it ain't. It goes in the same package.
Hmm.
Deuteronomy 8:18. It's a package. You know, you can't separate Deuteronomy 8:18 for your own benefit. People say no, it's just talking about wealth. No, 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 no. For it is Tatanazim who giveth thee the kawaka, the force to become wealthy. Now, when you're talking wealth, you're talking good health, good wealth, good prosperity, and good peace. They go together. Can't separate
Mm.
them. Can't separate it. People try to do it, but can't do it. And when you get into the exosa, the language of the creation, you'll see you cannot separate them. Can't do it.
Mm. Mm.
You try to separate, you're going to get hurt, and you're going against divine principle, divine plan. Can't do it.
100%. 100%. Um, we is any other way of trying to do things are to not work, and in order to for us to build wealth, right, um we have to set aside our wealth to do kingdom work. And we
That's right.
talked about tithes and offerings, and I believe how that's been taught has been completely off.
True.
If
That's
folks want you to pay for the building lights to stay on, when y'all never instructed any of us to pay for a building to meet to give his word.
that's fact. That's fact.
We can you can meet online in today's day. You can meet
Fact.
in homes. It only became a need of a building when it became a business. Now, if you're doing a
True.
business,
You hit
you need
it.
a
You hit it
place
right
of
on the nail.
business.
You hit it right on the nail because I did a research on that, and every single Koheleth congregation was in houses. Every single one. In
Yeah.
the early foundational structure of the believers, they did it in houses.
Yep.
You see, and then like you said, when they got into the greed portion of it, and they got out of the First John 5:8, and then they started building, turn it into just a business.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
money making corrupt business.
Yep.
But early congregations, houses, baby, huts, caves. Okay, so the preachers don't want to hear that kind of talk, and then because they know that it mess up their little hustle.
Right.
You see, that they
hundred
have.
percent.
That's what they have, the hustle.
Hundred
So,
percent.
yeah.
It's hard to know who to really give to. So I've been studying with a group of believers here in Wisconsin. We have a virtual Bible study from about 12 to 3 p.m. on Saturdays. And when the Bible talks about giving to the poor, the poor that he was referring to and the poor today are not the same. And I got
Mm.
into an argument with the brother at the fellowship in Houston because he's like, if you drive in the street and a homeless person's on the corner and they ask you for money, you're supposed to give it to them. And I said that doesn't make sense. I was like, because you don't know why they're out there. A lot of folks are out there because of
Huh.
drug addictions.
Right,
A
right.
lot of people are out there for bad choices. And I remember, if you remember when I used to work for the Bridge Over Troubled Waters and
Oh
fall
yeah.
and then Father Bill's homeless shelter out in Quincy.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, we our services, we were supposed to go out and give supplies to homeless people.
Hmm.
They had grants for people to get housing and all that. And some of them folks, they was like, we'd rather stay out here and be homeless than have to take on the responsibilities of paying rent or paying a bill. And
Hmm.
they just want to be off the grid of society.
Hmm.
And some people, and then you got some people that go out there and they act like they homeless and they holding up a sign collecting money, but they not
Yeah,
really homeless.
exactly. That's
So
a fact.
while so I feel like it'd be unwise for me to just give blatantly. Or then they will do it to you. Well, the Bible says if somebody asks you for your coat, you give them your coat and you give them your cloak. And I was like, that's just a misinterpretation and misreasoning of
Exactly.
scripture. And I said,
Exactly.
I said, I said, the Bible, the poor, the Bible talks about widows. He talks about orphans. He talks about disabled people. Um, but even the people who didn't have a lot of money, finances, they were made into slaves, where they had to work off their debt, or they
Right.
had to work. They had to work. So basically, God intended the poor to be people who cannot provide for themselves. If you were disabled, you couldn't provide for yourself. If you in
Difference. Yeah.
that society, if you was a woman and your husband died, you couldn't
Mhm.
provide for yourself. And if you were a widow and your husband died and you had a kid, that child who's an orphan couldn't provide for himself. But if you
Widow's
are
mite.
an able-bodied, grown person
Right.
and you just don't want to work, or you fall into drug addiction or alcohol
Mhm.
addiction, or some people gambling addiction, they lose their money because of gambling. Some
Man.
people are whoremongers, they spend all their
Mm,
money
mm,
on
mm.
chasing females. If any of those things put you in a bad financial situation, I'm not obligated to help you.
That's fact.
I had a brother hit me that I only played basketball with a couple of times. He hit me a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "Yeah, I saw you posting about not giving all your money, but me and my wife were in a bad spot. We got a little baby, and we need $250 for a car." Now, at first, I felt bad, but then I said to myself,
Mhm.
"Well, shoot, one, I don't even have a car where I'm at. Number one, number
Mhm.
two, there's two of y'all." Now I understand having a small child, but how can't two people and I understand wanting to have a car, but I don't have a car neither, and I still get around. I call
Right.
Uber.
Right. Right.
So and if you don't have the money right now to purchase a car, you're gonna have to just figure out Uber around. Why do I have to give from what I worked hard
Right.
for
Right.
your
Right.
situation when it's two of y'all? And then I had
Exactly.
another brother hit me up later, later on in that week, and he said, "Can I send him some sneakers? Buy him some sneakers?" Talk
Mhm.
about, yeah, I know you got all these people and all these sponsors, because the people see me on online and on the internet, and they see me doing certain things. They think I'm just rich, so I'm just the person, and they know that I got a good heart. But what I
Right.
realized is that having a good heart will lead you into destruction, because
True.
because
Yeah.
this guy, he's older than me. He talking about he ain't got no sneakers, and I'm like, well, and then he said, one of my boys bought the last pair of sneakers I had for me. So I'm seeing that there's a pattern here.
Right.
And it's like, why come you're not doing anything to be able to take care of yourself?
Mhm. I hear
And
you.
again, now if the brother, he, if I guess the brother's supposed to call me. I mean, I don't think he's disabled. I never even met the brother before in my life. I've
Mm,
tried
mm,
to
mm.
offer and helping him. He does some basketball training stuff, but it just seems like you don't have your stuff together. I'm like, are
Mhm.
you charging people to do basketball training? Well, I've only been charging them $25. Like, he's not really confident in himself. But
Right,
sometimes, sometimes you having to be you being in this hole can't afford some sneakers, or maybe will get you to stop moving in the way that the Most High would have you to move.
right.
But if you're moving with no confidence and you got your head down and depressed, then that's contributing to your financial situation. So I
True.
feel bad, but I'm not gonna about
Mhm.
to go buy you a pair. I almost did it, but then I said, no, I'm not about to just go buy you a pair of sneakers.
Mhm. I hear you, but
Because you're if you call me and
enabling.
you say, listen, I can't work because I got a chronic illness and I
Right.
can't work, that's something different.
That's different. Totally different. You're enabling him if you get him that.
Yeah,
Right. And I hear you.
and
No, I
the
hear
brother the brothers got all mad at because I said that. Um and it like, you got unforgiveness in your heart, and that's why you don't want to give to people. And I said, man,
you.
you can call it whatever you want.
Right.
But at some point the Bible says you don't give your pearls to pigs and your rubies to
That's
dogs, because they'll
that.
run all over and trample it. You
That's
don't
a
give your
fact.
pearls what's holy
That's the
to
swine.
everybody, man.
You're right. You're
Um
right. You're
so,
right.
that's I just wanted to say that, because the last part of
You're
that
right.
is that I want to get to is the Bible says, out of your guard your heart, because out of your heart
Right.
comes all the issues in life. And
True.
if you allow people to use and misuse you, it can lead to a lot of things, a lot of mental issues that will lead to spiritual issues that will
That's
lead
it.
to health issues, and it
True.
become a slippery slope. And before you know it, you addicted to medications, and before you
Yeah.
know it, you're dead. And all
Yeah.
started because of something that happened emotionally that affected you mentally, spiritually, and then physically. So
True.
we got to make sure that we are, if we follow Yah's ways, we'll be
True.
protected from all those things, man. Anything
That's
you want
it.
to say in closing?
No, you hit it right on the nail. That's right there. You seal that. That's it.
That's it. That's it, man. Well, brother Wayne, I thank you. We went. This was a good one. We went about 15 minutes over today, but I wanted to get on because I think
I
this
hear
is
you.
so important. You can try to do try to accomplish all the things in the world, but if you don't have health, you can have all the worldly money, but you won't have true wealth.
True.
So I wanted to speak on that. Again, thank you for all the things that you sent me. The Thieves Oil. I think everyone needs to get this book right here. This is Building Wealth. What's going to be Building Wellness with DMG. All right. The benefits of DMG: cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, immune system, and athletic performance. So this is something I'm gonna be sharing with my athletes as well that I work with on a daily basis. So thank you for that. I'm gonna
Good enough.
chop up this video tonight. We'll get it out on social media tonight. Bless
Good
you,
enough.
brother Wayne, and I hope everyone that's tuning in and watching this and hearing this podcast was blessed as well.
Beautiful.
All right,
All praise and glory to the Most High. Tatanazembai.
see,
Yeah, have a beautiful Samba Sabbath.
um, yes,
Blessing.
yes, yes, and it is done. Thank you.
It is done. Take care.
All right, now blessings.